right,
So
Johnny B, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, I guess this is the inaugural pod, man. You're officially the first dude on the Hope Boys podcast. I'm pumped about it, dude. Yeah, I you know what? I'm gonna intro you as best as I can. This is my boy, Johnny B, Johnny Burke, Johnny B Good, Mr. Hope Boy Johnny, Mr. Johnny Hope.
Yeah.
How's it going, my man? Good to see you, dude. Thanks for being the first guy on the pod, man. I'm pumped about all this, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get my story out there.
For sure, dude. And that's what we want to do, is just kind of, let everyone know the realities of addiction and recovery and all that stuff. And every story is different. And when I jumped in the rooms myself, I heard a story that resonated with me. And so that's why I stuck around. And so that's why I want to do this, is share the, experience, strength, and hope. That's what we do. I do want to thank you for being the first guy on the pod. Hopefully it turns out as good as I want it to be, but if not, we're going to do it again. I appreciate that, my guy. We got a funny
you already know.
Yeah, we got a funny story, you and me alone, but we'll probably get to that a little bit later. I just wanted to, start off. Tell me, a little bit about your childhood, your early years, what that looked like, and where you were born.
All right. My name is Johnny B. I'm coming at you from Ottawa, the capital city of Canada. That's where I was born, 1984, 2.5 months early. My mother struggled with drug addiction, so I was born addicted to cocaine, and I spent a month in the hospital just because I'm 2.5 months early, and I bounced around a lot when I was a kid. I'm the oldest of 4, and my dad wasn't really around. He was into different things and biker stuff, and he unfortunately ended up dying in 2004 in prison. He was murdered. And so my childhood was really hard. I grew up in the lower town Vanier ghetto of Ottawa, and it was hard. It was we didn't have a lot, and then I was, as being the oldest, I was taking care of my siblings a lot, and then eventually everything came to a standpoint. Things kept getting worse. My sisters, I have 2 sisters, 1 brother. My 2 sisters are from a different dad, and he was very abusive, all kinds of abuse. And so when I was 10 years old,
this is your stepdad, or your
yeah,
dad?
my stepdad. Yeah, he was a very nice guy, and my mom was super addicted and just super not being
not present, not present.
Yeah, just not present, not and so long story short, we when I was 10 years old, me and my brother got adopted by my grandparents. My sisters got adopted outside of the family, which caused me a lot of
random home, like the random family.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got really resentful because I have 6 aunts. My mom has 6 sisters, and so that was really, none of them step up to the plate. And so all my life I've had resentments against them for that. So anyways, I went into my grandparents. I went from being able to do whatever I wanted as a 10-year-old to my grandparents, Irish Catholic, tuck in your shirt, pull up your pants, take your hat off, do this, do that. Wow, we're having
from no rules to military style rules.
So if anyone's from Ottawa, I went from Lower Town to Upper Hunt Club. And so that's one extreme to the other, right? Big ass house from a little shitty project house to a big ass house where you have everything you want and you're just not used to it, right? I'm still at school going to the breakfast club. You know what I mean? My grandma's giving me shit.
Copping a free lunch.
Yeah, my grandma's giving me shit because she's just they're gonna think I'm not feeding you. And I'm well, that's what I know. You know what I mean? And
that's what's comfortable. That's what you know.
Yeah. And so losing my sisters really affected me. I was very angry and just didn't get it. My mom ended up getting sober after my sisters were taken away. I guess that was her bottom. She got sober for 3 years, and she wanted me to move back with her.
How old were you at this time? How old were you at this time?
About 13.
13, okay.
13, yeah.
So you're starting to like at that
And
point in your life, you're trying to like figure out like who you are. You're still like unsure about like
yeah,
you're not a man
yeah,
yet, but
for
you're
sure.
not a boy. So you're starting to pick up responsibilities, feeling a little more confident, trying to figure out who you are as a
Yeah,
person, right?
yeah, exactly. And so I didn't want to go. I was mad at my mother. I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like I already got some roots here. You know, I want to stay here. She was up in Sudbury. And so my brother ended up going. And then my brother got very sick, and he got a disease called Crohn's and colitis.
Yeah. My mom has
And when he
Crohn's.
was
My mom
14,
has Crohn's.
back then they didn't really know much about it. And when he was 14, he almost died. He was like 59 pounds.
For
And so that
sure.
really affected me, affected my family, and I remember my mom stayed at the Ronald McDonald House in Ottawa for like 3 months, watching him like suffer. And eventually my mom relapsed and disappeared again.
Yeah.
And I didn't see her for 9 years.
Did you go back with grandma?
I did. Yeah, I ended up moving in with my uncle,
Oh, okay.
my grandpa's brother, which was tough. Like I started using when I was 15.
That was my next question. I was going to jump into that. I was like, at what point, like, when did you first start using it, and like, how did that make you feel? Like, what were you looking for out of that use, or what were you looking for something, or did you just try it and it filled a gap that you needed or didn't know you had yet?
Yeah, like in high school, when I started high school, like I was really like I was very very athletic, but I was very like scrawny and shy and like whatever. And
Ronnie
so
Johnny.
I started drinking this cooler, big 2-liter cooler, one weekend, my first time drinking. And
Oh, cooler as in like an alcoholic beverage, like a cooler, like a Mike's.
yeah, like it's called like an Okanagan Valley cooler, and it was in a 2-liter bottle.
Yep.
And I drank the whole thing, and I got just plastered. And I remember waking up, and it's like I had the flu, and I was in some trailer, and I was like,
So your first
what's
drinking
going
was
on?
your first blackout.
Yeah, I blacked out first time drinking.
How's that for a sign? Hey, looking back now, you're like, wow, I was an alcoholic day one.
You know, like both my parents have this disease, so there's a high chance that I was going to pick it up. But so it started off like for me, I think this is important to mention is I became very very good at basketball, and so that was like an outlet for me, and so I wouldn't allow drinking to get in the way of that. So like I would plan my drinking around like my tournaments and my like practices and like all that stuff, because I just loved it so much. And I ended up getting so good that I had Arizona State and I had Niagara looking to give me a scholarship.
Okay.
But because of my size and my attitude, like I was very cocky, not very good like sport. But anyways, I ended up getting a scholarship. I ended up going to college in Peterborough,
Okay.
played there for a year.
Was that Trent?
No, I played at the college, Sir Stamford Fleming.
Oh, Fleming. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I went there for a year, and like my drinking at that point, my using, like marijuana was a big one.
Yeah.
Like I was smoking weed all the time, like chronic.
Of course, buddy. Of course.
You know, and then I was with the same girl for 5 years.
Okay.
And then eventually, she broke up with me because of my nonsense, right? And that hurt.
No.
And so guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna move.
For sure.
That's what I did, man.
Geographic location means sobriety and recovery. Wrong.
My uncle owned a construction company out west,
Yeah.
and they flew me out there.
Nice.
Flew me out to Calgary, and I was 21 years old. You know, my basketball dreams were over. My drinking was getting worse. I was depressed, and they flew me out there anyways, and I just ruined it. I just made a mess of everything. You know, that's when everything really, really started for me. That's when I think I crossed that line.
Yeah.
Was when I went out west, because I was gambling. I was started doing coke. I was, you know, but I was able to work still because I was young.
At this point, Johnny,
Had
you had any legal consequences regarding your drinking and drugging at this point yet? Before you went out to Calgary or Alberta?
No legal consequences. I still had. Not yet. We'll get to that.
Not yet, but wait.
So I ended up getting kicked out of my uncle's house, fired me.
Yeah.
My aunt was an alcoholic too. Like she's never made any sense. And me and my cousin just party. And anyways, I ended up on the streets of Edmonton. Um, that's when I was like at first big bottom. I stole a bunch of cash from my uncle, and I ended up on the street in
What's a
Edmonton.
bunch? We're going to be honest on this podcast. I promise you, listener, we will be honest on this podcast 100%. At least I will. I can't say for the guests.
I stole
for honesty, so we're going to hear it right now. If he wants to share.
I stole $1,500 in cash.
Okay.
From my uncle that I found in his drawer in his room. And
what were you doing in there, Johnny? What were you looking for in there, Johnny?
I was actually looking for his weed because I knew he smoked weed, and I found $15 in cash instead, and I bounced. And I don't even know if they've ever forgiven me for that. But anyways, I took the money. I ended up on the streets in Edmonton.
And how old are you?
I ended up at 24.
24. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. 24, 23, 24.
How long have you been out west? How long have you been out west at this point?
So I've been out west about 2-3 years.
At this point.
Almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it went good for a long time. It went good for a long time.
It went good for about a year. Like I wouldn't say good, but I was managing, working, and doing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then there was a breaking point where I just couldn't do it anymore. Like my using, especially when I got into the crack cocaine. I still remember I was 23 years old. It was New Year's Eve, and I tried that drug.
I was going to ask you about this story. I think this is, what you've said already up until this point, some of your childhood, that's something about you that I didn't know at all yet, right? Like you and I, we've become close in the last, let's say since Christmas, to be honest. But that's a part of your story I didn't know. This is one story I was going to ask you about because it was one story that kind of hit home with me. It resonated with some of my antics, but I was going to ask you to share this story if you would, man. It's a goodie. It's a goodie. Looking back, I'm sure while you were riding it out, it probably wasn't so good.
Yeah. So before I tried crack cocaine, I was doing coke for about, 6 months. And I'm at a New Year's Eve party in Calgary. And it's like one of my cousin's buddies had this, huge house, like massive mansion. You got to go through a gate. And we're there and I go to his room and he's just like, hey, why take the bus when you can take the plane? And I'm like, what? He brings me in his room and he's got these little rocks. And
so you're going
try it, man.
The hard, boom.
Yeah. So I try it. I try it in a bong, and boom, that was it, man. I think that choice ruined my life right there.
Yeah.
Because I was never able to put it down. And that night I spent $800 my first time doing it. And it didn't become an everyday thing, but it was it started off as once a month. I do a 2-day bender of crack. Then it was by the time I stole that money, I was downtown Edmonton, smoking crack with homeless people and being homeless and never been homeless before and staying in shelters. And, I got into this huge fight down there and, ended up assaulting police officer, ended up doing 3 months in jail in the Edmonton Remand Center. And if anyone knows Edmonton, I don't recommend going to jail there. It was a scary thing. I was 128 pounds, first time in jail. Thank God I had some people to help me and show me some things, but jail's not a place for me. I don't belong there.
It's really a place that anyone wants to go. It's just so this was the first time that you saw heavy legal consequences from your drinking and drugging.
Yeah, big time, and they wanted more time, but because I didn't have a criminal record, they gave me kind of a slap on the wrist and just put me in the penalty box for a few months. And think about it,
Took your seat,
because
did your minor. What'd you do? 60, 90? What'd you do? 30, 60, 90?
I did just over 90 days.
Just over 90 days. Okay. That's a long time. I'm sure a week feels like a month in the joint. Never been there myself.
But they wanted over 2 years because of the assault on the officer and death threats on the officer, and then the assault I had on the other person. So there was lots anyways, I was able to get some good legal aid, which is hard to believe, but I got it. And anyways, I got released, and I stayed homeless for another 2 months. And then I remember I was gonna jump off a bridge, and all I heard was my grandma's voice in my head. And so I emailed her, and I emailed her. Yeah, I think I emailed her, and she sent me a Greyhound bus ticket and told me, if you come home, you have to go to rehab. So, and my grandmother, like, I love her. She's still alive today, actually, and she's basically like my mother, and so
For sure.
So anyways, I took the 75 hour bus ride home
across the country
from Edmonton.
And if anyone doesn't know the geographical span of Canada, do yourself a favor and Google it on your phone or your iPad or your whatever you're watching this on right now, because it's a distance, same country, and you're driving for like a week straight. It's insane.
I think the ticket was like $140, and like looking back at it now,
I'm sure you were not feeling very hot on that Greyhound bus.
I had some. I didn't have any like hard drugs, but I had some weed, and I found a pack of smokes at the bus station, which was a miracle.
Beautiful, yeah.
And but all I had was like a backpack full of like crackers and snacks that the homeless shelter gave me to leave on the bus. And anyways, I ended up home, and my mom was there with like my brother, and like they were dealing oxys out of this little town called Pryor, like big time dealers.
Welcome home,
which was
Johnny.
like, yeah, and I just was like, I couldn't handle it, and I ended up going to rehab.
Go to rehab and be sober when like you come home to this. That's a pretty difficult task, man. That's two left feet and ugly shoes.
It was tough, but I went. I ended up going to rehab. My first time in rehab, 2010.
Inpatient.
Yeah, I did a place called Elliott Lake Camilla Center, and I just was coming off the streets, man. And people are holding hands, and like I was just like, I didn't like it, but I knew that for me it was just a place of refuge, and it planted the seed in my head. And I got introduced to AA, and I got introduced to. I knew a little bit about recovery because my mom was in it, and she was trying, and I read up on it. But anyway, I stayed sober for 5 months. I ended up moving up to Sault Ste. Marie, which is a town in northern Ontario.
That's a drive. That's from us here in Toronto. It's about 8 hours to the Sault or more.
No, it's more. Like it depends. If you go through the States, it's shorter.
Yeah.
But if you go through Ontario, for you, it would be about 15 hours.
Maybe that's what it was. It was 100 Vegas.
It's 10 hours from Ottawa.
I drove to Kenora, and that was like 22 hours with a stop in the Sault. So yeah, it was about halfway. Yeah.
But if you drive through Michigan to the Sault, because you go around, you don't have to go around.
Unfortunately, Johnny, I'm going to share a little story here very quickly. The person I was going to Kenora with also had an assault on an officer charge, so we were not allowed to go through Michigan because of the record, right? So ironically, that's as well. And I just want to say that was my man Corey Lovey's, rest in peace, man. That was some mental health issues that sorted him out, and then he was taken way too soon, and he was a good friend. And so rest in peace, Corey Lovey's, man, my man.
All right, man. Respect.
Yeah. So now you're in the Sault.
Yeah, I'm in the Sault for 3 years, and this Italian guy I met in rehab owned 2 restaurants, and he gave me a job, gave me a place to stay, and we became really good friends. But then we ended up starting to, not stay sober, and then I just started doing blow. I started doing blow. I wasn't doing the crack, but I thought, anyways, crashed and burned that. Back up. And then during that time, actually, when I was in the Sault, I haven't been speaking to my mom very much, because of there was a report, there was a big investigation. She had 2 doctors that lost their license because that's where she was getting her drug supply from.
Gotcha.
Up in Sudbury. And there was like a ring, happening, and we weren't sure if she was going to be, if they were connecting to her or not, but these doctors were all getting arrested.
Gotcha.
And then, anyways, but long story short, she ended up deciding to get sober. She was sober again 3 weeks, and you'll never guess what happened, man. I got a call midnight, 2010, October 2nd. Still remember the call from my cousin Megan. Like, this girl never calls me. Like, I was like, this has to be serious. She calls me and she's like, John, you gotta come home. I'm like, well, why? She's like, your mom was in an accident. I'm like, an accident? What kind of accident? She's on life support at the Ottawa Civic Hospital. And I was just like, I hadn't, last time I talked to her was 6 months, and it was like a yelling match. And um, anyways, my mom was on the bus, a city bus in Pembroke, a little shitty town outside of Ottawa. No disrespect, Pembroke, it's just small. And but anyways, the door was broken. Anyways, she fell out of a moving bus and hit her head on the curb, and instantly was brain dead. And so, my grandpa booked me a $900 flight from Sault Ste. Marie to Ottawa. That's how much it was back then. And I got there, and I had to make the decision, me and my grandpa, to take my mom off life support, which was a tough decision, man. Like and then I had these people talking to me. They had me in this boardroom, and they're like, does your mom have any good organs? And I'm like, my mom was an addict, man. She's got nothing to give.
Yeah.
Maybe she does. You can check it out. I don't know, but like, why are you even asking me?
Yeah, for sure. And like,
and
what headspace are you in at this point in time? And you're also battling addiction and stuff too, right? So you're not in a headspace to be making any of these.
Like I had a Mickey in my pocket, and I was sipping it in the bathroom at the hospital just to take the edge off. And like, we pulled the plug, and they said it would take a few hours. My mom, she took 27 hours to die after we pulled the plug. So that was horrible, like having to wait that long. And then when she died, it was just like, I just went numb, and I just didn't know how to really respond. All I knew how to do was just use. And just the way it happened, we ended up filing a big time lawsuit against the bus company, and they didn't want to take any blame or any accountability for what they did. And I remember I had to do a victim impact statement at one of the court hearings.
Yeah.
And the owner was there, and I tried to attack him, and my grandpa had to pull me off him, and I almost got arrested in court. I was just so angry that there was no accountability from the bus company.
Yeah.
Long story short, we ended up getting a settlement of over 6 figures, as a family. Like,
yeah, but putting a price on mom's life isn't easy.
The thing is like that's the only way you can make these people pay is through their pockets. But like, the money's not going to bring my mom back.
No.
And it wasn't even. I don't think even we should have got way more than that. To be honest, but we don't live in the United States. $100
million. It doesn't change the fact, like you said,
we don't live in the United States.
Accountable for what they did.
Yeah, and they had a huge black mark on their insurance. Like, so their insurance is from now on is going to be really expensive, but they're still in business. It's called Tom Bus Lines. Watch out for them. They're not. They're shady. Tom's
Bus Lines. This is an anti shout out to Tom's Bus Lines right now.
Yeah. So that happened to me, man, and that really affected me. Like, I have a hard time, like, even going in hospitals, and we'll get to the hospital stuff later, but like, that really affected me just because I never had so much unfinished business with my mother and she was 3 weeks clean, and all the other shit that she's been shot at, she's been this, she's been like, and then to go out like this, fall out of a moving bus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like, what's going on?
Yeah, no doubt. So,
man, I ended up coming to Ottawa, moving back home to Ottawa. And again, I'm looking for a rehab center. I've been putting myself through so much trauma, so much shit, so much anguish. Now I got this death on me, my hands that I've never experienced.
You know what, Johnny B? Let's take this as a moment, because now are we at a pivotal point in your story?
Yeah.
Okay, so after mom dies, did things get better or worse with your addiction and drinking?
They got worse.